scene one, take one. We only need one take. It's like a Clint Eastwood movie.
Wonders.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of A Friendly Film Take. I say it's the podcast by Film News Blitz, but at the moment we're just on YouTube, so it's probably a vodcast. It's about friendly film chat and friendly film debate. Hence, it's called A Friendly Film Take. And it's me, Dan Lawrence, and once again joined by Rhys Stacey in a snazzy shirt.
It's the snazzy shirt and the moustache as well. The attempt at a moustache.
Yes. You're doing the long run up to November, getting a head start.
Get a head start. It's
so
not working.
You're in a good place for when it starts in a few months' time. I say a few. What is it? It's April, so you've got a while.
I've got a good while.
Only a growth. You're a bit like my back garden. You won't be mowed for several months yet. Anyway, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Last time we mentioned I was hanging up washing for the first time this year. It then rained after we finished recording. I am now hanging up washing outside for the second time this year because of the lovely Easter bank holiday weather. As you can see, filtering in across. It's a denim wash, mainly jeans. And I'll bring it back to a film reference. There's some Marvel Comics pajamas out there.
Nice.
It did rain twice after I hung them up in short bursts yesterday, but today on Easter Monday, time of recording, the sun has risen again, much like the fabled biblical character that's given us this extra day off work.
We've just been cancelled.
Sorry. Well, everybody's entitled to their beliefs. Oh shit, we're going to need to take two. What are we going to be talking about today, Rhys? Do you want to tell the lovely viewers
we're going to be talking about what you've been watching, because you had a little cinema flurry this weekend, I'm led to believe.
Just the one flurry.
Just the one flurry, okay.
It was a single
and
flurry.
The ridiculous task I've set myself in the lead up to December's major tentpole cinematic releases. And then you are going to tell us all about Project Hail Mary.
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Should we crack on?
Let's go.
Right, well, the first thing is basically, what have you been watching this past week? Because we spoke last week, didn't we? That basically you spend your time going through this like film list
effectively
of things. And this will naturally segue into our second point.
We've nailed it.
Well, we haven't yet because we haven't done it yet.
This week, for some unknown reason, was compelled to either purchase or stream every available piece of Dune media possible. There is more TV shows and more films than you think there is.
Is there?
Back in 2000, there was a 3-part mini-series recreation of the first Dune book, and then they also did a 3-part, I think, adaptation of Children of Dune, which is one of the lesser known.
Both live action.
Both live action. In Children of Dune, the main character is Susan Sarandon. And one of the children of Dune, I think, I haven't seen it yet, is a young James McAvoy.
Cool.
2003 James McAvoy. So pre-atonement, but that still feels like a pretty big thing. But yeah, I haven't been, and I was talking to you about this, I haven't been excited for a film in the cinema, like a big blockbuster, bring the audience together film, probably since Endgame.
That's a long time ago. That's
long.
Really?
I think so. I haven't. I've had things where I've been excited because I want to go to the theatre. I want to go and see the film, but I can't think of a big, exciting for even Dune Part 2. I went because effectively it was on, and I'd seen Dune Part 1. Didn't really get on with it because I watched it on a TV. Went and had like a pretty magnificent experience. It was a packed out IMAX theatre in Wimbledon. That was sensational. But yeah, there just hasn't, for me, been this big kind of like, we need to go. back in our university days, we went to as many midnight screenings as humanly possible.
We did.
We would be there.
Mainly of the comic book adaptation variety.
This is true. In fairness, that is just what was coming out. But we were Captain America 3. We got to the
did
theater.
all three, didn't we?
We did all three in a row, which is obviously madness. And we probably didn't get home until about 4 a.m. But it was like that, and the kind of community aspect and the being excited about something I've missed. So instead of waiting for the marketing department to excite me, I'm not on TikTok.
You're exciting yourself.
I've decided to excite myself. I'm sure I certainly could have phrased that better. But what I've done is picked up. I've got it here, to be honest.
You've got the novel, have you?
I'm about halfway through it. It is a pretty chunky boy. I'm I am on page 279 of, I think it's about 550 pages. It is fantastic.
Wonderful.
I understand why it's been adapted as often as it has. But what I'm effectively doing is I'm going to make my way through the books and then intersperse that with the films and the corresponding TV shows. The HBO TV show from 2 years ago, Dune Prophecy. I've begun with that as my kind of like.
That has all the sort of the biblical mothers of whatever it's called.
The Bene Gesserit.
That's the one.
And how they are effectively. What's quite nice is because in my day job, I'm doing a lot of fighting AI on behalf of like creative rights. So what's quite nice is having a TV show where effectively these big scary machines that are AI, it's humans versus the machines, and they take out the machines, and then you've got this ravaged world, and they don't know quite how to move humanity forward. So they've set up these different schools of thought, which you can look at as different religions. I think that is the natural parable that comes with it. And it's telling the story of the birth of the Bene Gesserit order, who then kind of form this prophecy or discover this prophecy of Paul becoming this messianic, murderous traitor monster thing.
Yes, he's not the Lisa Al-Gaib. He's just a very naughty boy. For people who aren't totally duned up, the Bene Gesserit lot, it's basically from the first Dune film, Charlotte Rampling's character, who makes, Paul Atreides, Timothée Chalamet put his hand in the box. What's in the box? And obviously Rebecca Ferguson, she goes full tilt as well. And Florence Pugh's character as well.
Yes.
Of the old
Princess Irulan.
The gang of I must say I do really enjoy his Dune films, directed by Denis Villeneuve, who I also believe is been writing the screenplays for these. And I really like the way he goes Frank Herbert when he talks about the original author of the novels. So I remember seeing the first one in an IMAX actually, Odeon, Norwich. So that was really cool, but I did get the sense of, obviously I'm not watching a complete story because it's the first half of a very juicy book, but I mean it was beautiful in terms of a visual spectacle. And then so I was very hyped for the second one in terms of I'd seen trailers, and obviously I wanted to see the story completed, and I really, really enjoyed the second one. I mean, from the get-go, when you've got them doing that sort of like little, in the desert, that open sequence, they're doing it sort of like space hopping. That's good. It's just a very well crafted film. I thought in terms of you watching the Paul Atreides, descent into madness.
Basically madness.
And you can really see where this novel informed Star Wars, I think. So that was also an interesting point of discovery. I'm very, very excited, like you are, for the third one, which comes out in December. The marketing spin is Doomsday, isn't it? I think we've talked about that before. That's mainly coming from the Marvel, because obviously it's coming out the same day as Avengers Doomsday. I think it's December 19th.
Yeah.
So these are the two big Christmas franchise movies. And obviously, so the marketing really won't ramp up. So it's good that you're deciding to excite yourself better phrases are available, in ahead of time. I think I could dispute you saying you've not been excited for something since Endgame, because obviously you're a big Batman fan, and the Batman came out post-COVID, didn't it? Were you not, or were you more curious when that came out?
No, do you know what? Fine, I will take that because we did the midnight screen. 2022 though, wasn't it?
No, we didn't do the midnight screening for that. I went. I tell you for why. I went to see that. I might talk about. I might touch on this a bit later. Actually, I did my first viewing of that was a solo cinema trip, the Southampton showcase on a Friday at like 11 o'clock at night.
On release weekend or like a little bit later?
Yeah. I think it was the Friday. Yeah, because I didn't want any spoilers or anything like that. I didn't want any. And I was on my own, and I just went.
Oh no, I had gone to.
You went. No, you did. We've spoken about this. You did a midnight release with. You were going to go with Nick.
I was going to go with Nick.
But you went with other people.
Went with other people and drove all the way to Salisbury. Did screen one. Knew I was absolutely hyped. We got a little recreated comic book they handed out. I don't know if you got one of these. It was the Long Halloween part 1, but like done in the style with the new Riddler and the new kind of bat suit, the Battinson suit and things. Fine, was very excited for that because I am just a big Batman fan. But 2022 to 2026, because that was what, March of 2022, so that's well over 4 years ago now. God, I've just aged.
And they're only just kicking off production for the next one,
which is
a long time, hasn't it?
And I see or hear people are losing interest, or they're like, it hasn't come out quick enough. So, like, how are you capitalizing on people's excitement? I'm personally of the opinion it takes as long as it takes, and I would far rather an excellent film rather than something that was rushed out the door.
He's a legacy character, isn't he? The old Batman. So they just wheel him out and people go watch it, don't they? A bit like how we were saying about Spider-Man last week, I suppose. And it's really a kind of a thing of like, I think another thing is obviously this version of Batman's not being integrated into what James Gunn's doing with the wider DC universe, which continues with Supergirl this summer, which I'm concerned won't. I'm hoping it's a good movie, but I've seen from it looks very Guardians of the Galaxy coded. I think
I see that. And
I'm worried just in a summer where there's obviously the Spider-Man movie coming out. I'm worried that it's not going to have the lift off box office wise. But it's a very different DC that James Gunn's Conjuring. It's obviously so far it started off quite colourful, quite
very hopeful.
What version of Batman does he slip into it, and when does he do it? Obviously, because the Batman Part 2 comes out next autumn. When do you then do Batman in the DCU? Are they going to overlap? Because I'd like to see Matt Reeves conclude if Part 2 doesn't conclude a story, I'd like to see him conclude a story with a third entry. But let's face it, that might take about 50 million years to make anyway. Yes, interesting. Talking about long periods of time between sequels, this could perfectly segue into our next segment, which is me talking about Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. Which is also, I feel like, I mean, this has been out for a few weeks now. We're a bit late to it, but like, sue us, we've got jobs and lives to do. But anyway, Ready or Not 2, Here I Come is a fun sort of horror adjacent slasher action comedy, fun little blast of a film. It's a long gestating sequel to Ready or Not, which came out in 2019. Thoroughly enjoyable, both these films. I only just saw Ready or Not for the first time in full last week on Disney Plus because Eden really wanted to see the second one. And I was like, right,
let's watch this.
So Samara Weaving plays Grace, and she just gets married into this. This is the first one. Just gets married into this rich family, and it turns out that they're a bit culty and a bit satanic, and they have to play this sort of ritualistic game of hide and seek to initiate her into the family. But it turns out this game of hide and seek involves her being caught and killed before dawn. Otherwise, the whole family pays the price in a fatal way. And it's just a lot of fun, isn't it? It's just very cool. Samara Weaving's like a great, I guess, in terms of scream queen, isn't it? In horror. Yeah.
Action, excellent. It's funny. It's gory.
Yes.
It teeters on the line of like it almost veers into complete silliness, but there's still, I don't know, the self-seriousness of the family, the matriarch of the family, and the kind of, she's running around in a wedding dress and there's just blood popping everywhere. It's fantastic.
Yes.
It's just an absolute riot.
She plays as well. Samara Weaving plays genuine terror and genuine like pain because she goes through so much, her character, doesn't she? She's like no perfect. And it kind of kicked off the careers for the directors, a duo called Radio Silence.
Yes, indeed.
Matt Bettinelli, Olpin, and Tyler Gillett or Gillet.
Ooh.
Who knows?
But
they ended up sort of revitalizing the Scream franchise with Scream and Scream 6. We did a film called Abigail, which starred one Catherine Newton, who is in Ready or Not 2, Here I Come, Samara Weaving, Grace's sister, Faith. And notice how Grace and Faith, they've got quite biblical names. And obviously,
I like that.
Villains are all satanic, aren't they? So basically, Ready or Not 2, same directors, which I think is really crucial, and same writers from the first film, which again is really crucial. They keep everything that was good about the first one ticking with the second one. It's still funny, it's still gory, but we have some nice little expansions of the lore and things to keep it fresh, like adding a sister character. So basically, Ready or Not 2 kicks off as Ready or Not finishes. You know, when Samara Weaving, she comes out of the house at the end of the first film, she's smoking a cigarette. That is where the second one starts.
Nice.
She then collapses, wakes up in a hospital bed, handcuffed, with a police investigator basically going, well, you're probably going to be done for murder.
What have you been up to? Yeah.
And Catherine Newton's character, Faith, is there, and she's like an estranged sister. We haven't seen each other in years. They don't get on. But, because Samara Weaving, spoilers, I mean, the film's 7 years old, won the game of hide and seek, this now opens up the floor to basically the family from the first film are part of a group of families that have all pledged allegiance to the satanic benefactor, Mr. Bale. And it basically, the events of the first film set in motion a wider game of these competing families who basically, if they win this new game of hide and seek, which again has Samara Weaving character as the bait or the prize, and her sister's now involved as collateral. Whoever wins the game of hide and seek assumes power, kind of influence over the whole world. That's the sort of expanded dynamic. So it's a fun little, like, we've got little additions to the lore. The sisterly chemistry between Samara Weaving and Catherine Newton is really, really good. It's really on point. It really works. So that it helps also for the stakes. It helps for the comedy. It helps for just giving it a bit more zip. And everything that worked from the first one still works here. I would say the only thing that sort of holds it back a little bit is by adding new sort of things to the lore, new rules to the game and stuff, it means there's a bit more extra exposition, which is delivered by Elijah Wood's character called the Lawyer, and he's like the attorney to all these families and or represents the interests of Mr. LaBelle. So he's the one tasked with doing all the exposition dumping, which kind of slows because the first film it really zips along, doesn't it? Once you
find out as she finds out.
Yeah. We go ba, 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 ba. Whereas here, the little bits of exposition does slow things down a tad in a little bit, but still really good fun and really worth watching, be it in cinemas or when it comes on streaming or what have you. It's a really enjoyable time at the cinema. You know, you go and you have fun. It's not too like you don't have to invest much in it to enjoy it.
You can just sit and enjoy. Tell me, on a horror, like you said, a horror adjacent sequel, you did go a couple of weeks after it come out. That's fine. How many bums in seats?
There was a few actually. Yeah, we went on a Monday to showcase, which is if you do that insider thing, it's a little bit cheaper, so that genuinely attracts more people. It was a smaller screen, but there was a few people in there, enough people to be engaged in the film, and you could hear people laughing, you could hear people jumping or stuff like that when there were a few jump scares, and also like the film because it kicks off the next day, and like she's in hospital when they realise shit's kicking off. She puts the dress back on.
Nice.
And like she puts the Converses back on, the yellow Converse. She puts the completely red soaked wedding dress, and it's just like and the way it's quite iconic. Like I think you're seeing like that's gonna be a Halloween outfit for years to come.
I love that.
And it just becomes cool. Like Samara Weaving in the wedding dress it's up there with those other sort of iconic looks in cinema, I suppose.
I like that.
I would say that's my personal opinion. Also, it really excites me the fact that these Radio Silence peoples, this duo, they're going to be doing the Mummy Legacy sequel with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz. So that's very exciting. Less exciting for me because I'm a horror wuss is that they trailered Lee Cronin's The Mummy. That was really scary. And then they trailered another film. I don't think it was called like The Disturbance, or it was like someone was podcasting, and then like sort of like haunting, malevolent presence coming through through audio. So it was one of those trailers. I couldn't just cover my eyes to not be scared. They were doing freaky shit with sound and dialogue, and I was like, "This looks terrifying. It's really not for me." I can't remember what it was called. Was it called
Disturbance? Sort of reminds me of. I couldn't tell you when it came out, but it's certainly between 2000 and 2010. I think there's a Canadian film called Pontypool, which is a one location zombie horror film. And I remember randomly just putting it on when I was a teenager and just being absolutely like captivated by it. It's a handful of people in a radio station. One of them's the radio host, and they slowly realize that actually this zombie outbreak has happened because of audio, and then they know that all the zombies are outside trying to get in, and then it's effectively how they get out of it. But a lot of that is down on audio as well. And we know that you can watch your horror-y media, and a lot of it there's a laziness I'm noticing in the audio space of it, which is loud violin and a bang. Scary.
Yeah, so if you turn it down, it's not scary.
You got nothing. You just put it on. You're like, cool, that's fun. But something that I did watch this week, it turns out I watched a fair amount, is a film from 1990 called Jacob's Ladder.
Okay.
And it's Tim Robbins, Vietnam War. His platoon something terrible happens to his platoon. They all die, and they die in these really, really ugly ways. He lives, and he goes back to America, and he lives with survivor's guilt. But his survivor's guilt manifests in a very Silent Hill way with these kind of stalking monsters. I had to watch it twice because I did put it on at about 1 a.m. on Thursday evening. Fell asleep on the sofa, woke up to said monster on the screen. Absolutely terrified me because I was in this kind of like dual space of like, I'm still sleeping, but that's horrifying. Yeah. Then came back the next night and watched it, and a lot of that is based on the sound, and I think it's something that we need to bring back, because off the back of what you were saying with culty families and horror adjacent stuff, Netflix have just released a new TV show called Something Very Bad Is Going to Happen.
Okay.
And I watched all 8 episodes. Really enjoyed the first 4.
Okay.
Very, very similar setup, that there is there's a curse, spoiler territory for anybody that will watch it, but there's a curse where if you do not marry your soulmate, you will die effectively on sundown of your wedding day. And it's a young couple, and she slowly realizes that obviously he is not her soulmate, and vice versa. And she's like, how do I get out of this curse? But they play it for the first 4 episodes, and this is what I found really annoying, is that there's a serial killer or a monster called the Sorry Man, and you see all of these different sort of red herrings and things like that that build it up to make you think that there is this big supernatural monstery entity called the Sorry Man. The reveal of what the Sorry Man is actually brutal and really excellent horror. But then and that happens in episode 4, and then the rest of the thing completely falls flat. But it's blood soaked, and you have the bloodied wedding dress. And I think with what you were saying about iconic dress, that felt like a very, very contemporary reference to Ready or Not, which I think is great that it has actually had that impact already. Because when I first watched it, I was like, this is a riot. This is fantastic.
Yes.
Was I surprised that there was a sequel? Yes. Am I very happy that there's a sequel? Yes, absolutely. Because if, as you say, it keeps that energy, it keeps that verve, it's just expanded, it's just bigger, and Elijah Wood's in it, and that's always fun.
And Sarah Michelle Gellar's in it as well. And David Cronenberg.
And David Cronenberg's in it as well.
Not for very long, but he's in it.
I love that.
So there you go. Undertone was the scary film trailer. It was freaking me out. Not for disturbance. It was just a disturbance to me. But it's an A24 horror. Apparently, it's already out in the States, or it's been out in the States. So I don't know when. It comes out on the 10th here. There you go.
Each tape. Oh,
it was freaking me out.
Interesting to say.
Zach Cregger, apparently, his Resident Evil film is set to be like a horror Mad Max Fury Road. So that's pretty cool.
He said, so Capcom agreed to his pitch.
He's got total creative control, isn't he?
He can do whatever he wants, because they were like, yeah, absolutely, you crack on. What I'm loving is what they are putting out from short films, from animated films, from the video games. Everything's hitting with an audience, so they're in a very comfortable place where they can go, one of the most exciting filmmakers around, go and do what you want, and you just know it's going to be batshit crazy. I can't wait.
Let's hope that he does. Let's hope that it's a really great film by him, and then he goes back to doing original sort of weapons. Let's not. I think it's the thing, isn't it? When it's the natural trajectory, isn't it? You do something really. You do like independent, then you do original that's successful on a mainstream level, and then you get tied to a franchise. And it's obviously, if you nail that.
Then you
balance. Do you keep doing franchise movies, or can you balance it with doing original stuff as well? So let's hope that you don't want to get. Do we want Zach Cregger to make 6 Resident Evil movies, or do we want him to keep doing?
If they're all bangers.
Well, yeah, I suppose. Should we move on to another segment of chat?
Let's do it.
Another friendly film take. Well, the other film I've watched since we last spoke was Project Hail Mary.
Everybody is loving this.
Apparently so. It's made 400 million worldwide, or more than that, actually. It's Amazon MGM's biggest film ever since they merged. So, that's great. It means Jeff Bezos can keep affording to airdrop people parcels. I don't think film success really has anything to do with whether he can do that. But this is an interesting. We were just talking about directors going from franchise and what happens if it works. Sometimes when it doesn't work, it can create a bump in the road. So, Project Hail Mary is directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, who people will know as having directed things like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, the Lego Movie, the Jump Street films, and their last directorial piece of work was, in terms of feature film, was 22 Jump Street in 2014. What they were then going to go on to do was Solo, which we spoke about last time, but they got fired by Disney whilst they were in the middle of production, and then Ron Howard took over, finished that film. Since then, Phil Lord and Christopher Miller have segued more into producing, such as the amazing Spider-Verse animated films.
Indeed.
But they're back into directing with this film. It stars Ryan Gosling. It's based on a novel by Andy Weir of the same name, who wrote The Martian, which was adapted as a Ridley Scott movie with Matt Damon, screenplay by Drew Goddard, who's also doing the screenplay adaptation for Project Hail Mary. And basically what this film... cinematography as well by Greg Fraser. Dune.
Batman and Dune.
Batman, yes.
Yeah, nice.
And because he was doing this film and is I think he's doing the next Batman. He can't do Dune Part 3. It's the cinematographer who did La La Land who's doing Dune Part 3.
Ooh.
Interesting, yes. But this film, basically, it starts with Gosling waking up in the middle of space on a spaceship. He's the only member of a three-person crew that survived the trip into deep space. He can't remember why he's there. And he slowly pieces together with, basically, we see his sort of present storyline, and then we intercut with flashbacks back to sort of what led him into space. But it very quickly becomes apparent that his job is to basically, there's this bacteria that's going between Venus and our sun, that's slowly dimming the sun. And, in 10, 20, 30 years' time, the world's going to cool down so much that crops are all going to go and everybody's going to die. But he's in the middle of deep space where this bacterial line is also occurring, but isn't dimming the sun in this area. So he's there to try and figure out why. And he also, whilst he's out there in space, meets a really cute alien rock that is also trying to do the same thing to save his planet and his star. So it's basically a film about Ryan Gosling and this alien rock in space becoming friends and trying to save the universe.
That's adorable.
It's, Ryan Gosling, we see his full range of acting talents, from dramatic to, that really sharp wit he has. Supposedly there's no green screen or blue screen in this film. It's all done through, I guess, projection and practical.
Oh, wow.
So the rock is completely practical. It's a puppeteered element.
Amazing.
And it's voiced by the puppeteer as well. And just before we start talking, Ryan Gosling and the puppeteer both had an earpiece so they could hear from the directors. So Phil Lord and Christopher Miller were feeding them stuff to improvise to then keep it nice and fresh between. I think Ryan Gosling was like on set mainly alone, because it's mainly just him and the Rock.
Yeah.
The alien Rock, who he calls Rocky. And they figure out a way to communicate, and it tugs at your heartstrings. It's beautiful. I mean, the film it looks stunning, and you can see why loads of people are watching it. It's really crowd pleasing. I went on my own because I had some time to kill, and I quite enjoyed like a solo cinema trip. I did it with Hamnet. Wept in peace with my custard creams. Did Marty Supreme. I didn't have any custard creams, so I didn't cry at that one, but that was an enjoyable experience. And this one, I did get teary. I did get teary with Ryan Gosling and this wonderful relationship with the Rock, space rock called Rocky. It's just great fun. Great fun. You can see, and it was very full. It was a very full Easter Saturday audience.
Nice.
It was like 20 to 1 in the afternoon, in the middle of a Saturday. Quite nice weather, but it was a packed cinema. Bournemouth Odeon this time around.
Fun. What screen?
Screen 8. So one of the fairly bigger ones. And I was in, like you go up the stairs and there's those like little rows of 3.
Yes, yeah.
Above the staircase, or above the entrance, really. So I was in that one. I was in that one of those little rows of 3, right behind like the sort of wall. And I was on my own in that little row of 3, and there was no one behind me, so I was able to cry in peace.
Relax with them custard creams.
I didn't have any custard creams. I literally got in just before the last advert.
Oh,
which was good timing actually. But I had a lot of fun. And
good.
Enjoying it. It was a bit of me, really. I like a bit of space. I like a science fiction movie.
Was there action?
I like a good cry. Yeah, brilliant action set pieces. Yeah, with good, nice high. Obviously, stakes are quite high. We're trying to save basically the universe, because it's dimming not only our sun, it's dimming Rocky's sun, his star, and other stars around as well.
So it's currently sat on 420 million.
Yeah.
Worldwide, which is obviously amazing. But what's incredible is that the international market and the domestic market are pretty even. So the Americans have turned out to the tune of about 217, and internationally 203. So that's like, you say crowd pleasing. That is what that is.
In my
That's
opinion.
what we like. I'm very excited to see it. Although, truth be told, it will be on the big home TV.
It will be. Well, yeah, I imagine it being an Amazon film, which still feels a bit icky when you see that come on. But then immediately afterwards, you see the lion going, wow, the MGM line.
Yeah, like
That's always quite exciting. I always find that quite fun. And it wasn't like, it's normally like the gold around the line. It was like white and red, like quite vintage. I suppose that's like a vintage flourish.
That's fun.
It was like, but that line's still roaring. I mean, I hope the lion gets royalties. Or, well, the original lion. I imagine the lion is dead now because MGM's been around, but hopefully the lion's family or a trust was set up in that lion's name, because the royalties must be huge just for roaring at the start of MGM.
So many films. Yeah.
So I would like to hope that there's some sort of reservation somewhere in Africa where some lions are feeding good, thanks to Ryan Gosling and the dudes who made Jump Street. Yeah, that was my main takeaway, really.
Do we think, because there is such a fervor for franchise potential, sequels, how do we extend this? Once you've saved the universe, I think the universe is saved, right? Does this?
This is a very solitary story, and it's based on a novel, so it's not getting. He's obviously Andy Weir's written other books as well that may potentially get adapted, because obviously there might be a think of. That's where I think the thinking would go. Like, we've had a success of this film. Obviously, The Martian's been done. He's got another novel called Artemis that, according to IMDb, is maybe in development, or it's
okay, great.
But like in a discussion stage. So that's where I go. But what I quite like, so you were saying at the start, a film you were being really excited for, but obviously audiences were going en masse to was Endgame. And that came out in 2019. And then obviously we had COVID, we had the strikes, we've had so many false dawns. Haven't we? We've had Top Gun Maverick brought everybody back, or Spider-Man No Way Home brought everybody back, or there's been this, but there's always been like these stumbling blocks. And now there's obviously, it's a case of it being maybe an animated property that brings everybody, or a family property, or something like mine. But it's really, I think it's quite nice to have seen a film it's not tied to a franchise. Yes, of course, it's based on a book, but it's nice to see sort of something that feels fairly, isolated or on its own, to be the thing that's
bringing people together.
And I think it also goes some way to cementing Gosling's star power. I mean, I think the catalyst probably being Barbie. Obviously, that's a major cinema event. And I imagine a lot of audiences who saw him in that have come back for more. What would be quite nice is if people have watched that and then they go back and watch something like Drive
Drive. Yeah, those classic things.
Some of his performances, which are very, very different. But I think, he's a genuine star, and you can feel. And I just really enjoyed the film. Really enjoyed it.
I saw an interview with Andy Weir, who was saying, and it was on the press junkets for this, that the science behind his books get disproven. So The Martian, when he wrote it, there wasn't enough scientific information to prove if
you can make potato out of your own dung.
Effectively that. And then a couple of years later, they found obviously like pockets of water or pockets of ice on Mars. So that obviously disproves the scientific basis of his story. Nothing has happened yet on Project Hail Mary, but he knows that it will. That what he says he does is that when he puts together his stories, he does it with an underpin, a theoretical underpinning, but very much is what is big for an audience, what is exciting for an audience. So the actual source material itself isn't restricting itself. It is, and it can be as big as the universe. So I think that matchup with a big studio who's going to put the budget behind it, I'm in adoration of the fact that everything is, as you were saying, practical effects and projection. I think that that's harder to date than something that is obviously all CG. And then having the star power of Ryan Gosling, who I will endlessly watch. I do not care what, and he could be in a film called Staring at a Blank Wall, and it could be 4 hours long. I would watch it because he's just.
I think he's great.
I think he's just sensational.
Yeah, I agree. Apparently, the science of this film, because I was listening to Mark Kermode, who's obviously the sort of the I guess the most probably the biggest film critic in our country in the UK, and one of the most, I guess, widely loved and respected. And on, I think both his podcasts with Simon Mayo and then both and his own sort of more individual podcast, he was speaking about when he went to the press junket to interview Ryan Gosling, and Brian Cox, the scientist, was there. And he asked Brian Cox, how does the science hold up? And Brian Cox apparently said it holds up pretty well. So there you go. But I think as long as I think with science fiction, I mean, the fiction element is an important point to note, isn't it? Really, as long as it holds up within the framework of the movie.
Yes.
And and then at the end of the day, as long as you've got a compelling story to be told, then it's not 100% a huge problem.
If it's something like this sounds like it's a parable for global warming. The world is about to end. We all collectively need to come together to try and fix this problem. So as long as it's like underpinned with that.
Global cooling being the problem in this film. It's a flip.
Oh, fun.
Obviously, because the sun's dimming. It means Yes. And I think there's a funny interview clip where basically I think the directors say, like, men can only be friends if the end of the world's at stake or something. It's quite funny. But yeah, well worth a watch. Really lovely film. And hopefully that's the start. It feels like we're going to have a big year of films. As you say, we're going to have Dune.
Fingers crossed.
You know, there's obviously the big Marvel franchises are kicking around. We've got the Odyssey coming up. Things like that. We've obviously got Spielberg coming back into science fiction with Disclosure Day.
Yeah.
There's a lot that's going to be going on, which is nice. But yes, we're doing quite well actually for time. We're about half an hour ahead of schedule compared to last time. So whether that's a good or a bad thing, I don't know. I've got as a final point recommendations and what you're watching next. But yeah, I was thinking maybe what given it's the Easter bank holiday weekend, obviously families are gathering around sofas and stuff like that to watch films. What do we think? Maybe that's where we should lean into.
What should they watch?
Potentially. Simon, our Film News Blitz co-founder, he's been watching Superman, Up, and today he's watching Paddington in Peru. So that's a pretty good trio of family-oriented films. So I would say, inspired by that, watch WALL-E.
Oh, beautiful.
Because there's a bit of space there.
There is a bit.
Like Project Hail Mary, there's not too much. I mean, and there's obviously the beautiful opening when it's just WALL-E walking around the sort of desolate wasteland of Earth, and there's no dialogue, and which is really bold.
It's a wonderful film.
So I'm going to recommend people watch WALL-E.
Fair. I'm going to push going on the space save the world theme. And possibly my favorite science fiction film, Interstellar.
Boom!
That when that first came out, I saw that 3 times in a week because it was sensational. It's obviously there's a certain bleakness that comes with it, but that film as a family, because we went and watched 2014.
Yeah, 2014.
I just aged. But going as a family, going and watching that and kind of all marveling at the spectacle because it has a little bit of everything for everybody. Aside from a sense of humor, because it does not have a sense of humor. I know that the robots in it are supposed to be the comic relief, but given that everybody's about to drown, and
their sense of humor, the robots, is so bloody dry, quite macabre, but it doesn't really help alleviate. But I love that film, and I think it holds up really well.
Phenomenal film.
Films kind of hold up well.
That's fair.
Which is maybe a thing to be said if you've got hundreds of millions of dollars budget, go practical, because if it's filmed in camera, it's likely to hold up. Yeah.
As Werner Herzog said, in Grogu, who was going to be CG,
you have to make it a puppet.
You have to make it a puppet. You have to make it a puppet, and it's Yeah, there's a certain show. You even watch those kind of lower budget Labyrinth and what am I thinking of? Same make, still Jim Henson, the Crystal something. Oh, it's fantastic. Also watch that because it's all puppets. The Crystal 1987.
Let's have a Google. Jim Henson. The Crystal.
Dark Crystal. It's called the Dark Crystal.
There you go. The Age of Resistance. Is that the one which David Bowie's in?
No, he's in Labyrinth as the slightly creepy, weird, odd character, which I think is probably unpopular opinion, but a slight blight on his film career.
Cool.
Because I think that's weird. But yes, do you know what? I've changed my answer. Watch Interstellar because it's great. Put the Dark Crystal on because that's just practical effects and fantastic.
Perfect. That seems like a lovely place to end, doesn't it? My secondary recommendation is watching Werner Herzog talk about chickens. Google Werner Herzog chicken or chickens. He gives a funny little soundbite. But there we go. I've got our slate out. I guess make sure you do the likes and subscribes and all that jazz. Comment. Tell us if we're talking rubbish. Tell us if we're talking absolute genius. Tell us what you're watching this Easter, even though by the time I've edited and published it, Easter will basically be over.
Easter 2027.
Yeah, what are you going to do then? Watch chickens or watch Interstellar or watch puppets or robots picking up trash. But there we go. Thank you, Rhys, for joining me. Thank you, viewers, listeners, or whatever, for joining us. Boom!